Hello again, everybody. This episode contains mild language, references to violence, and thematic elements that, based on your personal beliefs and parenting style, may not be suitable for children under the age of 12. Keeping that top of mind, as you ready your ears to participate in the story, I thank you for being here. Please join me after the episode for a deep dive inside the story with me. Without further delay, this is Short Stories with Stefan, Episode 7, Leap. Jackson knows he only has maybe 10 minutes before it's too late. The line of cars in front of him doesn't show any sign of clearing up. His brother called 20 minutes earlier, and Jackson could tell by the tone in his voice what the phone call meant. Jackson picks up his phone and puts it to his ear after hitting his brother's contact picture. The ringing in his ear echoes throughout his entire body. "Hello, you've reached Tyler. I'm currently away from the phone, but if you..." "Hell no," Jackson declares. He is determined to not let his brother's voicemail be the last time he hears his voice. He knows where he'll go, their favorite pier in Costa Vista. It was where Jackson was when he got the news about their sister. "Come on," Jackson yells at the traffic. The feeling of helplessness is growing louder. To the right of the line of cars is a police car. The officer has cleared a way for the tow truck to come through. He figures some idiot has gotten into a fender bender and is now stopping 4 lanes of traffic because no one knows how to go around. Sweat is collecting on his arms and hands. The police car stops and the officer gets out. Jackson looks at where the officer is walking to and sees a huge tire in the middle of the road, 2 lanes from him. The police car is still on. With a mixture of adrenaline and the love for his brother, Jackson gets out of his car, not closing the door, and sprints for the police car. He hops in, turns on the sirens, and speeds away. The sound of the officer yelling at him informs him that he is not going to get away with this. But he has to do it anyway. He has to get to Tyler. Looking at his watch, he thinks he might be too late. He is only 1 exit away from the pier, and he slows down for no one. He looks in his rearview mirror and sees 2 other police cars chasing after him. "Pull to the side!" a voice yells from one police car. The pier is ahead now, and Jackson is honking as an accessory to the ear-piercing sirens. Then, he sees him. At the far end of the pier, Jackson sees Tyler stepping over a barrier between the lookout wall, where fishermen place their poles, and onto the ledge, leading to the nearly 90-foot drop. It was unbelievable how close he is to stopping his brother, and yet how far away he now feels. One might think that at this point, reasonable thoughts could potentially start entering Jackson's mind. But all of those reasonable thoughts were being shouted out by more important, pressing thoughts. Thoughts like, what could he have done differently? Had he done something to provoke this? Maybe he could have been more attentive after Sophia was killed. He should have let Tyler move in with him instead of listening to his fiancée. All these thoughts remain louder than the promise of prison for stealing a police car. Jackson mounts the curb and jumps out of the car before the 2 other cop cars come to a halt. He sprints down the pier yelling after his brother, "Tyler! Tyler, wait! Tyler, don't!" But it is too loud on the pier, because today, the local high school band is recording a video performance of their state championship routine. Jackson sprints past students and parents, knocking down a tuba player and ducking away from an angry parent who tries to grab him. Tyler is now on the other side of the barrier, standing still, only his hands on the barrier keeping him from falling. Jackson yells out again, "Tyler! Tyler, wait!" This time, Tyler hears him, and he turns with rolling tears down his face and looks at his brother. But his face doesn't show relief, or excitement, or hope. It shows the face of a brother who survived a brutal attack. It shows the guilt he feels for being alive while his sister is not. It shows a face begging for the pain to stop. Jackson is feet away from him now. He's so close, and then wham! A police officer patrolling the pier tackles him from the side, and he hits the ground with a crack. "Don't fucking move, or I'll taser your ass," the officer yells into Jackson's ear. "Please, officer, please! My brother!" I said, "Shut the fuck up!" Jackson looks up and no longer sees his brother standing on the edge of the pier. A weight fills his lungs, gripping his throat and collapsing his will. He is too late. "McNair? What the hell are you doing?" "Gilden, this is the asshole who stole a cop car." "What's his name?" "Haven't asked yet." "Sir, what's your name?" Officer McNair stood him up, gripping his arms tight as he cuffed him. Jackson Gothard." Officer Gilden whispers something into McNair's ear. The 2 exchange looks, and then McNair hands him off to Gilden and walks towards the oncoming police officers. As Officer Gilden walks Jackson towards the end of the pier, he looks back and sees Officer McNair stopping the police officers from following after. Then he sees them turn back and head toward their cars. What is going on? He thinks as he uses his shoulders to wipe away some of the tears. Thoughts of guilt begin taking over. Why hadn't he gotten off work earlier? Why hadn't he picked up Tyler and taken him home? Why didn't he reach out more? Why didn't he try harder? When they turn the corner to the back of the pier, there he is. Tyler is sitting on a bench, wrapped in a blanket, talking to another officer. "Tyler!" Jackson yells. Tyler stands up and grabs his brother, pulling him into a tight hug. Both brothers begin to cry. "That was a very stupid but very brave thing you did," Officer Gilden says. "I had a brother," the officer sitting on the bench says. "I would have stolen 10 police cars if it meant I could have saved him." "Yeah, but you're an idiot," says Officer Gilden. "Yeah, but I'm your partner." "Yeah." "But I saw you jump," says Jackson. "Almost jump," says the officer sitting on the bench. "We got a call there was a possible jumper on the pier, and luckily for your brother here, I turned the corner just in time to grab him and pull him back." Tyler didn't let go. Neither did Jackson. Even though he is currently handcuffed, he pushes into his brother's hug. It is Jackson's attempt to pull all the hurt his brother felt into himself. He can take it, and he wants to. "I'm sorry," says Tyler. "No," says Jackson. "I've got you now. I've got you. I've got you." Hello, everybody. Welcome to After the Story with me. Leap is a story about a brother who tries to save, and ultimately does, his brother's life. The younger brother is so filled with guilt and survivor's guilt and remorse because of an attack that took his sister's life that he was present for, and I wanted to explore that grief. And in truth, the reason that the story is written the way it is, with the older brother running after him down the pier and just being this crazy chase scene, is this was originally a short film idea, and I kept thinking that my good friend Daniel, who is so good at free running and parkour, would look so cool running away from the police down this pier, dodging all of these people to save his brother. So that's how the story came about. Was I was just imagining the cool things my friend could do, and I thought, well, what would prompt this free running, parkour character to literally break the law and sprint down this pier to save someone? And that would be if somebody like his brother was about to take his own life. And this story touches on something that I think we can all relate to, which is, did I do enough? Am I doing enough? Those questions are inevitable, and they do make themselves known, and they rear their head in moments of grief. And it's important, I think, to remember that there really is no right answer. You could argue, of course, that no, there's more you could have done, there's more you could have said, and with equal weight argue that no, there's nothing you could have done or said more. This person needed help, and it didn't result in an outcome that you are happy with. In this story, the outcome is good. The brother is saved through a lucky and fortunate series of events of police being in the right place at the right time. I also wanted to highlight the goodness of others, even if it's a police officer. I know that's weirdly controversial to say right now, but it seems like we've lost sight of what the goal is, which is to be helpful with one another and to be compassionate and to put ourselves in other people's shoes, really. And it seemed like the officers in this story, there is the initial officer who knocks him down, who doesn't have the full picture and is just being a super dick. In context, he's being a super dick because the guy just stole a police car and sprinted away. So there is that. But it's immediately overshadowed by the kindness and compassion that the other officers show him and his brother. And I love this. I do. I love all the relationships taking place. I love the image of the tuba player getting bumped and the sound that it would make, the disruption of the band. It all is just a cacophony of sound that I really, really enjoyed imagining. And I'd like to invite you to imagine what you would do in that situation. It really just brings us in when we ask ourselves, well, if I was on the way to save someone from doing something irreversible, what would I be willing to do? What would I be willing to risk? For all of us, that answer will be different. And for all of us, the answer might bring up something of a new feeling or an old feeling. And I don't intend to bring this up in a cheap way, because the reality is there are some people that we just unfortunately are not equipped to reach in time or at all. And that's really, 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 really tough to work through as individuals. That's why it's so important to have a good community around you so you can work through it together. In the scenario of this story, what's absolutely wild is that this man is just willing to risk it all, which if I was in his shoes, like I just said, I 1,000% would. If my sister, right, if she was in this scenario on the edge, you better believe I'm not getting out of the car at the pier. I'm driving that damn car all the way down the pier, honking my horn, hoping everybody gets the F out of the way so I can get to her in time. All right, that's me. That's how I feel. You might feel differently, you might respond differently, but that was what got brought up in me as I was writing the story. So, all that to say, it is an interesting story, one that I hope was encouraging and thought-provoking. And I once again, as always, thank you for joining me after the story for a brief discussion and a little dive into what was going on in my brain as I was writing it. And, as always, I will see you next time on Short Stories with Stefan. Bye-bye.